Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Happy Sayana Ekadashi. Although it's here, Ekadashi now, it may not be in your time zone, but we apologize sincerely for being late tonight, but we had some unexpected technical difficulties with our router, and it took a little while to figure out what to do, but here we are, hopefully better late than never. But not to waste any more time, we're reading Caitanya-caritämrta, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give unlimited causeless mercy to the world by delivering the holy name of the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has remarked, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, for if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual harm, no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So before we begin our reading, we'd like to offer our heartfelt empathy to Bhakti Churu Maharaj, who is still struggling in the ICU in Florida, struggling for his life. The COVID, this COVID disease is very serious, especially those of us who are senior in age and have some kind of extenuating conditions in the body. It's very, very dangerous. So we should all take this as a lesson to be extremely careful, and we should all channel our prayers to Bhakti Churu Maharaj for his recovery, full recovery. He's so important to Srila Prabhupada, to this movement, to all of us. Hare Krishna. So we've reached the 10th chapter of the Ädi-lilä, in which the branches and sub-branches of the Chaitanya tree are being delineated by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And we just heard a little at length about Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, who were major branches. And now we're on text 85. Among these branches, Rupa and Sanatana were principal. Anupam, Jiva Goswami, and others, headed by Rajendra, were their sub-branches. Purport. In the Gaura Ganodesh Deepika 195, it is said that Srila Jiva Goswami was formerly Vilas Manjari Gopi. From his very childhood, Jiva Goswami was greatly fond of Srimad Bhagavatam. He later came to Navadvip to study Sanskrit, and, following in the footsteps of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, he circumambulated the entire Navadvip Dham. After visiting Navadvip Dham, he went to Benares to study Sanskrit under Madhusudana Vachaspati, and after finishing his studies in Benares, he went to Vrindavan and took shelter of his uncles, Sri Rupa and Sanatan. This is described in the Bhakti Ratnakara. As far as our information goes, Srila Jiva Goswami composed and edited at least 25 books. They are all very much celebrated, and they are listed as follows. 1. Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. 2. Sutra Malika. 3. Dhatu Sangraha. 4. Krishnarcha Deepika. 5. Gopala Virudavali. 6. Rasamrita Shesha. 7. Sri Madhava Mahotsava. 8. Sri Sankalpa Kalpaviksha. 9. Bhavarta Shuchika Kampa. Bhavarta Shuchika Champu. 10. Gopal Tapani Tika. 11. A commentary on Brahma Samhita. 12. A commentary on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. 13. A commentary on the Ujjwala Nilamani. 14. A commentary on the Yogasara Stava. 15. A commentary on the Gayatri Mantra as described in the Agni Purana. 16. A description of the Lord's lotus feet derived from the Padma Purana. 17. A description of the lotus feet of Shrimati Radharani. 18. Gopal Champu in 2 parts, and 19 to 25, 7 Sandarbhas, the Krama, Tattva, Bhagavat, Paramatma, Krishna, Bhakti, and Priti Sandarbha. After the disappearance of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan, Srila Jiva Goswami became the Acharya of all the Vaishnavas in Bengal, Orissa, and the rest of the world. And it is he who used to guide them in their devotional service. In Vrindavan he established the Radha Damodar temple, where after retirement he had the opportunity to live. We had the opportunity to live from 1962 until 1965, when we decided to come to the United States of America. When Jiva Goswami was still present, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami compiled his famous Caitanya-caritämrta. Later, Srila Jiva Goswami inspired Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Dukhi Krishnadas to preach Krishna consciousness in Bengal. Jiva Goswami was informed that all the manuscripts that had been collected from Vrindavan and sent to Bengal for preaching purposes were plundered near Vishnupur in Bengal, but later we received the information that the books had been recovered. Sri Jiva Goswami awarded the designation Kaviraj to Ramachandra Sena, a disciple of Srinivas Acharya's, and to Ramachandra's younger brother, Govinda. While Jiva Goswami was alive, Srimati Janavi Devi, the pleasure potency of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, went to Vrindavan with a few devotees. Jiva Goswami was very kind to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavas from Bengal. Whoever went to Vrindavan, he provided with a residence and prasadam. His disciple Krishnadas Adhikari, listed all the books of the Goswamis in his diary. The Sahajas level 3 accusations against Srila Jiva Goswami. This is certainly not congenial for the execution of devotional service. The first accusation concerns a materialist who was very proud of his reputation as a great Sanskrit scholar and approached Sri Rupa and Sanatan to argue with them about the revealed scriptures. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, not wanting to waste their time, gave him a written statement that he had defeated them in a debate on the revealed scriptures. Taking this paper, the scholar approached Jiva Goswami for a similar certificate of defeat. But Jiva Goswami did not agree to give him one. On the contrary, he argued with him regarding the scriptures and defeated him. Certainly it was right for Jiva Goswami to stop such a dishonest scholar from advertising that he had defeated Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, but due to their illiteracy, the Sahaja class referred to this incident to accuse Srila Jiva Goswami of deviating from the principle of humility. They do not know, however, that humility and meekness are appropriate when one's own honor is insulted, but not when Lord Vishnu or the Acharyas are blasphemed. In such case, one should not be humble and meek, but must act. One should follow the example given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya says in his Shikshastika 3, Trinadapi sunichena turorapi suhishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniyak siddhahari. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking himself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Nevertheless, when the Lord was informed that Nityananda Prabhu was injured by Jagai and Madai, he immediately went to the spot, angry like fire, wanting to kill them. Thus Lord Chaitanya has explained his verse by the example of his own behavior. One should tolerate insults against oneself, but when there is blasphemy committed against superiors, such as other Vaishnavas, one should be neither humble nor meek. One must take proper steps to counteract such blasphemy. This is the duty of a servant of a guru and Vaishnavas. Anyone who understands the principle of eternal servitude to the Guru and Vaishnavas will appreciate the action of Sri Jiva Goswami in connection with the so-called scholar's victory over his gurus, Sri Rupa and Srila Sanatana Goswami. Another story fabricated to defame Srila Jiva Goswami states that when Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami showed him the newly completed manuscript of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Jiva Goswami thought it would hamper his reputation as a big scholar and therefore threw it into a well. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was greatly shocked, according to this story, and he died immediately. Fortunately, a copy of the manuscript of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta had been kept by a person named Mukunda, and therefore later it was possible to publish the book. This story is another ignominious example of blasphemy against the Guru and Vaishnava. Such a story should never be accepted as authoritative. According to another accusation, Srila Jiva Goswami did not approve of the principles of the Parakiya Rasa of Vrajadam, and therefore supported Swakiya Rasa, showing that Radha Krishna and Krishna are eternally married. Actually, when Jiva Goswami was alive, some of his followers disliked the Parakiya Rasa of the gopis. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, for their spiritual benefit, supported Swakiya Rasa, for he could understand that Sahajas would otherwise exploit the Parakiya Rasa, as they are actually doing at the present time. Unfortunately, in Vrindavan and Navadvip, it has become fashionable among Sahajas in their debauchery to find an unmarried sexual partner to live with to execute so-called devotional service in Parakiya Rasa. Foreseeing this, Srila Jiva Goswami supported Swakiya Rasa, and later all the Vaishnava Acharyas also supported it. Srila Jiva Goswami was never opposed to the transcendental Parakya Rasa, nor has any other Vaishnava disapproved of it. Srila Jiva Goswami strictly followed his predecessor gurus and Vaishnavas. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami accepted him as one of his instructor gurus. So this is a very, very important and informative purport by Srila Prabhupada. And when we were when we first went to India, I didn't go until 75, but different devotees went from 1970, 71. Srila Prabhupada took great care to protect us from the various apasampradayas that are very prevalent in India now. So this is an example for our benefit. Srila Prabhupada is elaborating a little bit about the kinds of rumors that are circulated by Sahajas, Sakibekis, Gauranganagaris, and other sampradayas, Sakibekis. And you can go to India and see them now, even in the holy dhams. They dress up like gopis, or they, like he said, they have, they keep women with them so they can have conjugal relationship, sexual relationship, without restriction, without any regulation. So this is extremely dangerous, and all the devotees should understand. They should be very careful about not hearing with submission these kinds of stories, and be very, very careful who they hear from, especially in India, but now it's spreading, these things are spreading all over the world. Stay chaste to Srila Prabhupada, who was in the line of Jiva Goswami and Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all the way to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. Hare Krishna. Text 86. By the will of the Supreme Gardener, the branches of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami grew many times over, expanding throughout the western countries and covering the entire region. 87. Extending to the borders of the river Sindhu and the Himalaya mountain valleys, these two branches expanded throughout India, including all the places of pilgrimage, such as Vrindavan, Mathura, and Haridwar. Text 88. The fruits of love of Godhead which fructified on these two branches were distributed in abundance. Tasting these fruits, everyone became mad after them. 89. The people in general on the western side of India excuse me. The people in general on the western side of India were neither intelligent nor well behaved, but by the influence of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were trained in devotional service and good behavior. Purport. Although it is not only in western India that people were contaminated by association with Muslims, it is a fact that the farther west one goes in India, the more he will find the people to be fallen from the Vedic culture. Until 5,000 years ago, when the entire planet was under the control of Maharaj Parikshit, the Vedic culture was current everywhere. Gradually, however, people were influenced by non-Vedic culture, and they lost sight of how to behave in connection with devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami very kindly preached the bhakti cult in western India, and following in their footsteps, the propagators of the Chaitanya cult in the Western countries are spreading the Sankirtan movement and inculcating the principles of Vaishnava behavior, thus purifying and reforming many persons who were previously accustomed to the culture of lechas and yavanas. All of our devotees in the Western countries give up their old habits of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. Of course, 500 years ago, these practices were unknown in India, at least in eastern India. But unfortunately, at present, all of India has been victimized by these non-Vedic principles, which are sometimes even supported by the government. Text 90. In accordance with the directions of the revealed scriptures, both Goswamis excavated the lost places of pilgrimage and inaugurated the worship of deities in Vrindavan. Purport. The spot where we now find Sri Radha Kund was an agricultural field during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A small reservoir of water was there, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in that water and pointed out that originally Radha Kund existed in that location. Following his directions, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami renovated Radha Kund. This is one of the brilliant examples of how the Goswamis excavated lost places of pilgrimage. Similarly, it is through the endeavor of the Goswamis that all the important temples in Vrindavan were established. Originally, there were 7 important Gaudiya Vaishnava temples established in Vrindavan, namely the Madan Mohan Temple, Govinda Temple, Gopinath Temple, Sri Radharaman Temple, Radha Shyamasundar Temple, Radha Damodar Temple, and Gokulananda Temple. Text 91. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, the 46th branch of the tree, was one of the most dear servants of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He left all his material possessions to surrender completely unto the Lord and live at his lotus feet. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was most probably born in the year 1416, Shakabda AD 1494, in a Kayastha family as the son of Govardhan Majumdara, who was the younger brother of the then Zamindar Hiranya Majumdara. The village where he took birth is known as Sri Krishnapur. On the railway line between Calcutta and Burdwan is a station named Trisha Bhaga, now known as Adi Saptagram, and about 1.5 miles away is the village of Sri Krishnapur, where the paternal home of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami was situated. A temple of Sri Radha Govinda is still there. In front of the temple is a large open area, but no large hall for devotees to assemble. A rich Calcutta gentleman named Hari Charana Ghosh, who resided in the Singla quarter, recently repaired the temple. The entire temple compound is surrounded by walls, and in a small room just to the side of the temple is a small platform on which Raghunath Das Goswami used to worship the deity. By the side of the temple is the dying river Saraswati. The forefathers of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami were all Vaishnavas and were very rich men. His spiritual master at home was Yadunandana Acharya. Although Raghunath Das was a family man, he had no attachment for his estate and wife. Seeing his tendency to leave home, his father and uncle engaged special bodyguards to watch over him, but nevertheless he managed to escape their vigilance and went away to Jagannath Puri to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This incident took place in the year 1439, Shakabda AD 1517. Raghunath Das Goswami compiled 3 books named Stavamala or Stavabali, Dana Charita, and Mukta Charita. He lived a long time, residing for most of his life at Radhakund. The place where Raghunath Das Goswami performed his devotional service still exists by Radhakund. He almost completely gave up eating, and therefore he was very skinny and of weak health. His only concern was to chant the holy name of the Lord. He gradually reduced his sleeping until he was almost not sleeping at all. It is said that his eyes were always full of tears. When Srinivasacharya went to see Raghunath Das Goswami, the Goswami blessed him by embracing him. Srinivasacharya requested his blessings for preaching in Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami granted them. In the Gaura Ganadesh Deepika 186, it is stated that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was formerly the gopi named Rasa Manjari. Sometimes it is said that he was Rati Manjari. Text 95. When Raghunath Das Goswami approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri, the Lord entrusted him to the care of Sarup Damodar, his secretary. Thus they both engaged in the confidential service of the Lord. Purport. This confidential service was the personal care of the Lord. Sarup Damodar, acting as his secretary, attended to the Lord's baths, meals, rest, and massages, and Raghunath Das Goswami assisted him. In effect, Raghunath Das Goswami acted as the assistant secretary of the Lord. Text 93. He rendered confidential service to the Lord for 16 years at Jagannath Puri, and after the disappearance of both the Lord and Sarup Damodar, he left Jagannath Puri and went to Vrindavan. Text 94. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami intended to go to Vrindavan to see the lotus feet of Rupa and Sanatan, and then give up his life by jumping from Govardhan Hill. Purport. Jumping from the top of Govardhan Hill is a system of suicide especially performed by saintly persons. After the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya and Sarup Damodar, Raghunath Das Goswami keenly felt separation from these 2 exalted personalities and therefore decided to give up his life by jumping from Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan. Before doing so, however, he wanted to see the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Text 95. Thus Srila Raghunath Das Goswami came to Vrindavan, visited Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, and offered them his obeisances. 96. These 2 brothers, however, did not allow him to die. They accepted him as their 3rd brother and kept them in their company. 97. Because Raghunath Das Goswami was an assistant to Sarup Damodar, he knew much about the external and internal features of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Thus the 2 brothers, Rupa and Sanatan, always used to hear of this from him. 98. Raghunath Das Goswami gradually gave up all food and drink, but a few drops of buttermilk. Text 99. As a daily duty, he regularly offered 1,000 obeisances to the Lord, chanted at least 100,000 holy names, and offered obeisances to 2,000 Vaishnavas. Text 100. Day and night he rendered service within his mind to Radha Krishna, and for 3 hours a day he discoursed about the character of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. We have many things to learn about bhajan or worship of the Lord by following in the footsteps of Raghunath Das Goswami. All the Goswamis engaged in such transcendental activities as described by Srinivasacharya in his poem about them, Krishnot Kirtanagananar Krishnot Kirtanaparo Krishnot Kirtanagananar Premamritam Bo Nidhi. Following in the footsteps of Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, one has to execute devotional service very strictly, specifically by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Text 101. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami took 3 baths daily in the Radhakund lake. As soon as he found a Vaishnava residing in Vrindavan, he would embrace him and give him all respect. 102. He engaged himself in devotional service for more than 22.5 hours a day. And for less than 2 hours he slept, although on some days that also was not possible. Text 103. I am struck with wonder when I hear about the devotional service he executed. I accept Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami as my guides. Purport. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami accepted Raghunath Das Goswami as his special guide. Therefore, at the end of every chapter, he says, Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade, Yara Ash, Caitanya-caritämrta, Kahi Krishna Das. Sometimes it is misunderstood that by using the word Raghunath, he wanted to offer his respectful obeisances to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, for it is sometimes stated that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was his initiating spiritual master. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami does not approve of this statement. He does not accept Raghunath Bhatta Goswami as the spiritual master of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. 104. I shall later explain very elaborately how all these devotees met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 105. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the 47th branch, was one of the great and exalted branches of the tree. He always engaged in discourses about love of Godhead in the company of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Purport. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was the son of Venkata Bhatta, a resident of Sri Rangam. Gopal Bhatta formerly belonged to the disciplic succession of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, but later became part of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. In the year 1433, Shakabda, AD 1511, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring South India, he stayed for 4 months during the period of Chaturmasya at the house of Venkata Bhatta, who then got the opportunity to serve the Lord to his heart's content. Gopal Bhatta also got the opportunity to serve the Lord at this time. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was later initiated by his uncle, the great sannyasi, Prabodhananda Saraswati. Both the father and the mother of Gopal Bhatta Goswami were extremely fortunate, for they dedicated their entire lives to the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They allowed Gopal Bhatta Goswami to go to Vrindavan, and they gave up their lives thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Chaitanya was later informed that Gopal Bhatta Goswami had gone to Vrindavan and met Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana Goswami, he was very pleased, and he advised Sri Rupa and Sanatana to accept Gopal Bhatta Goswami as their younger brother and take care of him. Sri Sanatana Goswami, out of his great affection for Gopal Bhatta Goswami, compiled the Vaishnava Smriti named Hari Bhakti Vilas and published it under his name. Under the instruction of Srila Rupa and Sanatan, Gopal Bhatta Goswami installed one of the 7 principal deities of Vrindavan, the Radha Raman deity. The Sevites, priests of the Radha Raman temple, belonged to the Gaudiya Sampradaya. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami took permission from all the Vaishnavas before writing Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Gopal Bhatta Goswami also gave him his blessings, but he requested him not to mention his name in the book. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has mentioned Gopal Bhatta Goswami only very cautiously in 1 or 2 passages of the Caitanya-caritämrta. Srila Jiva Goswami has written in the beginning of his Tattva Sandarbha, a devotee from southern India who was born of a Brahmana family and was a very intimate friend of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, has written a book that he has not compiled systematically. Therefore I, a tiny living entity known as Jiva, am trying to present the book systematically, consulting the direction of great personalities like Madhvacharya, Sridhar Swami, Ramanujacharya, and other senior Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Sandarbha, there are similar statements by Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami compiled a book called Sat Kriya Sara Dipika, edited the Hari Bhakti Vilas, wrote a foreword to the Shat Sandarbha, and a commentary on the Krishna Karnamrita, and installed the Radharaman deity in Vrindavan. In the Gaura Ganodesh Dipika 184, it is mentioned that his previous name in the pastimes of Lord Krishna was Ananga Manjari. Sometimes he is said to have been an incarnation of Guna Manjari. Srinivasacharya and Gopinath Pujari were 2 of his disciples. Text 106. The Acharya Shankararanya The Acharya Shankararanya was considered the 48th branch of the original tree. From him proceeded the sub-branches known as Mukunda, Kashinath, and Rudra. Purport. It is said that Shankararanya was the sannyas name of Srila Vishwarup, who was the elder brother of Vishwambar, the original name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shankararanya expired in 1432 Shakabda AD 1510 at Sholapur, where there is a place of pilgrimage known as Pandurapur. This is referred to in the Ädi-lilä, chapter 9, verses 299 and 300. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened a primary school in the house of Mukunda, or Mukunda Sanjay, and Mukunda's son, whose name was Purushottama, became the Lord's student. Kashinath arranged the marriage of Lord Chaitanya in his previous ashram, when his name was Vishwambar. Kashinath induced the court pandit, Sanatan, to offer Vishwambar his daughter. In text 50 of Gaura Ganodesh Dipika, it is mentioned that Kashinath was an incarnation of the Brahmana Kulaka, whom Satyajit sent to arrange the marriage of Krishna and Satyabhama. And in text 135, it is mentioned that Rudra, or Sri Rudraram Pandit, was formerly a friend of Lord Krishna's named Varutapa. Sri Rudraram Pandit constructed a big temple at Vallabhapur, which is 1 mile north of Mahesh, for the deity named Radha Ballava. the descendants of his brother, Yadunandana, Vanjopadhyaya, that's a long name, Yadunandana Vanjopadhyaya, are known as Chakravarti Thakurs, and they are in charge of the maintenance of this temple as Sevites. Formerly, the Jagannath deity used to come to the temple of Radha Vallabha from Mahesh during the Ratha Yatra festival, but in the Bengali year 1262, AD 1855, due to a misunderstanding between the priests of the two temples, the Jagannath deity stopped coming. Text 107. Srinath Pandit, the 49th branch, was the beloved recipient of all the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone in the three worlds was astonished to see how he worshipped Lord Krishna. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, about 1.5 miles away from Kumarahata, or Kamarahata, which is a few miles from Calcutta, is a village known as Kanchadapada. Kanchadapada, which was the home of Sri Shivananda Sen. There he constructed a temple of Sri Gauragopal. Srinath Pandit established another temple there with Sri Radha Krishna Murtis. The deity of that temple is named Sri Krishna Roy. The temple of Krishna Roy, which was constructed in the year 1708, Shakabda, AD 1786, by a prominent zamindar named Nimai Mulik of the Paturiya Ghat in Calcutta, is very large. There is a big courtyard in front of the temple, and there are residential quarters for visitors and good arrangements for cooking prasadam. The entire courtyard is surrounded by very high boundary walls, and the temple is almost as big as the Mahesh temple. Inscribed on a tablet are the names of Srinath Pandit and his father and grandfather, and the date of the construction and the date of construction of the temple. Srinath Pandit, one of the disciples of Advaita Prabhu, was the spiritual master of the third son of Shivananda Sen, who was known as Paramananda Kavi Kanapur. It is said that the Krishna Roy deity was installed during the time of Kavi Kanapur. According to hearsay, Virabhadra Prabhu, the son of Nityananda Prabhu, brought a big stone from Murshidabad, from which 3 deities were carved, namely the Radha Vallabha deity of Vallabhapur and the Shyamasundar Vigraha of Kadadaha, and the Sri Krishna Rai Vigraha of Kancha Dapada. The home of Shivananda Sen was situated on the bank of the Ganges, near an almost ruined temple. It is said that the name Nimai Mulik of Calcutta saw this broken down temple of Krishna Roy while he was going to Benares, and thereafter constructed the present temple. Now, Hare Krishna, I beg forgiveness for all the devotees for seeming to stop abruptly. I'm just immersed in all this nectar. The purports, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, translated by Srila Prabhupada, are just nectarian. All these details of all the places and personalities that belonged to the tree of loving devotional service around Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva. But I just received a message from Rasika Shiromani, and I have to answer it. So I'm going to stop the reading now, even though I started late. Please excuse me. We had technical difficulties in the beginning, and now I have something that I have to attend to. It has to do about the backup of the Caitanya-caritämrta audio files Very, very important. So we'll open up the discussion now. Whoa. So we'll open up discussion now for reflections, anything that stuck out in your mind during the reading. Is it working okay, the phone?
Here's a comment from Radha Madana Mohan.
Jai Radha Madana Mohan.
Thank you, dear Maharaj, for always keeping my Gurudev in your divine prayers. All glories to you and all the devotees who are the followers of your daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Gopakanya Devi Dasi, currently living in Holland in Boxtel.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
With the name Radha Madana Mohan in Facebook.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So now that answers the question. Radha Madana Mohan is, again?
Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Gopa?
Kanya.
Gopakanya Devi Dasi. Thank you for providing that detail. We're into the details today about people's names and events and so many things. So yes, we will keep your Guru Maharaj in our hearts constantly, from now and forever. Thank you very much. All of you, please accept my humble obeisances and affectionate greetings. And Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Something else?
Braj Vallabha says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I just want to thank you for these daily readings. I am learning very much.
Oh, thanks, Braj Vallabha. I was just thinking about you. Hare Krishna.
And Gopakanya says, our home deity, his name is Radha Madana Mohan.
I got it. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, same time, same station. Here in the Haven, from reading Caitanya-caritämrta and Srimad Bhagavatam and all the books of Srila Prabhupada translated and gave us by his causeless mercy. Please absorb yourself in these books as much as possible. Absorb yourselves in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and you will smoothly sail through all of these turbulent waters that we're going through now at this time on the earth planet. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.